Aloha, everyone. In today's episode, we have news from around the world. Hugging Face buys a robot startup. Open source 3D printed robots are here. And Google adds VO2 to Gemini Advance. It is Wednesday, and that means it's News Day. Welcome to the Daily AI Show. I am joined by Brian, Beth, Andy, and I'm Jyunmi. So let's open it up. Beth, what is your most interesting story from around the world?
My most interesting story is greeting the chat. So hang on just a second. My most interesting story. I think that Google's interpretation of dolphin video speak, the audio that they've been recording for years, and the video that they've been recording that shows behavioral context for the audio, the program that has started where they are training models to be able to understand dolphin speak. I think that's amazing. One of the things that is a part of that is identifying like the context in which the dolphins engage, right? So one of the things that they said was they're like rapid fire, I don't remember if it's a buzz or a click, but a rapid fire conversation that seems to happen when they're fighting. So I think this is an amazing thing. We've talked about that large language models are being trained on dog behavior, are being trained on whales, right? This is the first time that I've seen this level of analysis happening for dolphins, and dolphins are incredibly smart. And if you're a sci-fi fan, are we just about at the time where we're doing so long and thanks for all the fish?
Right.
Is this a sign of end times, or is this like just a very cool science story? I can go both ways, actually.
Well, that's what I was about to ask you, Beth, because this kind of goes in. I think I had done a conundrum on this, which was, are you sure we want to talk to the animals? Because that's a Pandora's box. And what I worry about, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm with you. I'm not like, I don't have a pun intended dog in this fight. I don't have a dolphin in this fight. My fear is we crack the code, which I think it might happen with specifically dolphins, because we have a lot of training data there, and that we know that they're highly intelligent, like elephants and other animals. What if the first words back are not "hello world," but "you mother"? You can't get out of your way.
They can respond to us now. Okay, we've got grievances.
Mammals, and it's just like y'all are ruining things. And you're like, oh, yeah. We thought it was just gonna be like fun time. Do you want to go get the ball? And like you have thoughts on the state of the world.
Well,
I'm
not so afraid of that, though, because I believe that while dolphins have these really complex vocalizations that include emotional intonations, and so I think we can start to understand what they're saying to each other in their respective pods. I do not believe they have the broad communication across the oceans to know that they're being slaughtered in Japan and to complain about that. So I think that what we'll discover is that this is more on the side of, wow, there is meaning and comparability to human language in dolphins once it can be translated by LLMs, just by understanding those rapid clicks and in some cases, a frequency spectrum that we don't even hear. I mean, they can record it, but there's a real rich complexity to those things. So I'm excited about it, and I'm not afraid of the dolphins. I think that they are going to be in their isolated pods. They're going to believe that they have a pretty nice life set up for themselves, right?
All right, Andy, you're going to have to push back a little bit, because all they have to do is then now talk to the whales. The whales are the mass communicators, and if we unlock us to talking to the dolphins, then we're going to unlock talking to the whales, and then the whales are going to unlock talking to the dolphins, and then it'll be a whole mess there.
But it could be the end.
This made me laugh. Sorry, I had to bring this up. Practical AI said, "My dog knows things. Snitches get stitches."
This is true. Well,
anyway.
It was funny because as soon as Beth, you said the scientist takeaway they got was they thought there was some heavy communication or the like when they're fighting.
Right.
So what popped in my head is dolphins talk a lot of smack,
Yeah.
right? If they're fighting and they're talking, that's all got to be smack talk.
Wouldn't that be hilarious if it was just smack talk? You're like,
Right. So it's a Google blog post that talks about this. And signature whistles, unique names that can be used by mothers and calves to reunite. Burst pulse squawks, that's what I was trying to remember. Often seen during fights or again during behavior that we're interpreting as fight. And the reason that I say that is that the third thing that they laid out was click buzzes, often seen during courtship or chasing sharks. So that doesn't sound like that sounds like maybe there's something going on with the buzzes that distinguishes it for the dolphins between courtship and chasing sharks, or there's something really hot for dolphins about seeing another dolphin chase a shark. I'm not entirely sure, but
I love this is where the news story started off.
Yeah.
You couldn't have started off with a better story, Beth.
Like Jyunmi toss to me, you get what you get.
You get what you get.
Totally what's
It's good.
By the way, totally not AI, but animal and also just cool, but totally not AI. Just throw it out there. Did you guys see there was a San Diego earthquake, and did you see the video of the elephants that like seconds before the earthquake started shaking, the mother elephants create a protective circle, like all facing out with the calf in the middle? The young in the middle. It was just super cool to watch. And like they just all gather together because they're trying to figure out where it's coming from, like where the threat is coming from. And then they just get in a circle and the smallest little guy is in the middle and the mother's like, ain't no way. Yeah, we're ready. They're like facing outwards from a circle. Anyway, not AI related at all, just super cool.
The other interesting part of this is that it's run on a Gemma model. The model that they named was Dolphin Gemma, but Gemma is the lower capability, right? Like, or maybe not, but is a smaller model, and so it was fine tuned on a bunch of different. It was fine tuned and then merged with two other models to get the context of the information across the system, and I find that interesting. So we're hearing a lot about more reasoning and all of these things that are happening that give us more capability, and we're not hearing quite as much about all of the things that can happen with a small model that is supplemented by other specific models. It reminds me of evolutionary model merge, and so that's just something that I think to keep an eye on as we move forward.
Sweet.
Very cool though.
All right, who's got the next interesting story they need to talk about?
Quick one queued up just because, and I thought maybe we missed this last week, but no, it was the 10th, which means I think we're technically within we're in the last 7 days. I just want to give a shout out to Canva, and this is what I want to say. Number one, Canva's announcement for their keynote, they called it Canva Create Uncharted, was phenomenal. I mean, when I tell you this company listens to its users and then goes and creates the solutions that are solving for the pain points. But Canva has their own I wish Aaron was here. It's just, I don't want to stereotype it as Australian, but it is a unique style. This is what I wish all keynotes look like, from Apple to all of them. I wish they had this kind of vibe and this kind of like fun behind it, because I feel like Canva brings the fun. Not that it's missing, but they just like, they lean into it. They lean into their unique Canvas style. They lean into a certain way of dressing when they do this. We saw this last year where we saw like the break dancing and the rapping and stuff, and people were kind of poking fun. But look, what we can't obviously watch the 1 hour thing, but they did release a lot of cool stuff. So you can go watch the Canva Create. It's on YouTube, or you can go to Canva and see it. But look at here at the end. I thought this is so sort of innovative. So basically, like, look, we showed you a whole bunch of stuff, but we have more. In fact, we have 45 more things we want to do, and we're going to tell you them all the updates in the next 3 minutes. And just, I'll play a little bit of this.
Hi, I'd like to add a widget to my website. Help me come up with ideas for content. I want to create a lot of designs. I love everything, nothing is bad. Add an easier way to make graphs. Add a function that is like spreadsheets love. Brainstorm design ideas would be totally skibbity if it just erased the part of the elements you hovered over. Different page sizes in one file. We granted every single one of those wishes, every one. And you know what would be wild?
What?
If we spent the next 3 minutes granting 45 more wishes. I'm actually not kidding, here we go. Better tools for making
Okay, so he does this for a little bit. I'm just gonna go. So then we get into, now we're into guitar. We've got dancers and singers.
Please add the etiquettes. Hello, please add the widgets. Well, this is taking much longer than I thought it would, and we only have a minute and a half.
Oh no!
So I'm gonna have some people grant some wishes like a roll call, cause that can happen fast. Do it! Connection!
Go directly on fly.
Interactive animation!
Your camera sends a photo.
Data aggregation!
What's precise?
Video adjustment!
What's in the day?
So like then they shot confetti. Still have the wrapping. Okay.
Wow. Wow. That's it. Kudos to the creatives. Wow.
Yeah, I give it to him.
Creatives.
I'll give it to him. I love that. That's very. I was flooded with high school drama club,
Yes.
band, all that kind of stuff. So I'll give it to him. That's a great way. That's a great hook right
Look at
there
it.
for sure.
Canva is for creators, and it's a creator focused. I mean, they are as on brand as they could possibly be on brand. And I just want to give them kudos because this looks like a good time. Like this is like, I want to be involved with that, just because it looks, and I don't know, maybe they do it over in Australia. I'm not sure. It's like in the YouTube theater. So I'm not sure where that is. But the, just the, and of course they did the initial stuff at the beginning, but everything is curated. Everything, all the design, the colors, everything is clearly on purpose. And it's just such a stark contrast to like an Apple, and I'm not picking on Apple or any other ones, but it's just,
right. It's not slick. It's more vulnerable if you want to.
They're not taking themselves too seriously, but at the same time, like there's a whole other, you would have to go to this thing. I'll just show you. We won't spend more time on this because we have other stuff to do. But if you go to this other one, Canva.
I will say real quick, I think the only way it could be better is if all of those people were employees.
On the stage?
On the stage.
Yeah.
They might have been. Yeah. They thank all their employees at the end. They have rolling credits of like 7,000 names, and they do all of them. The entire rolling credits of everybody that works at Canva. By the way, you would go to this website, canva.com, and it's like Canva-create launches. They did this last year too, and this is a much easier. I mean, the keynote is great, but if you're like, dude, just show me what you came up with, you would go to this website, and it's very, very creative. I will tell you, they have AI. This is an AI part of it. I'm not just shouting out Canva. They now have coding directly inside of it as part of their keynote. They brought like 20 people in for a use case, and from kids all the way up to people, and like almost none of them had any coding experience. And they're like, let's all build a website together. And then they all shared their ideas of what they did, even though none of them had ever coded. Very, very cool. It's got remember they bought, or they got in bed with Flux or somebody, and now, or Fall. I can't remember. Leonardo. So their images just got a whole lot better. They now have like better workspaces. Not that anybody's sleeping on Canva. I don't think that's the case. But that's the company to watch in the AI space, because they already had a really good brand, a really good thing going, and they are bringing in AI left and right in order to help people do even more creative things. Super cool. I'm just a super fan. I don't know. I'm a fan.
No, I do agree, because their direct competitor in their space is Adobe. Adobe has a bunch of different pillars, but their competing product is Adobe Express. Yeah. And Canva is by far, far better than Adobe Express. So, yeah.
So I think we've learned two things. I will come back to one of my talking points, which is hire you some theater majors, and if they were in show choir too, like you've got it, no problem.
Yeah.
And the second one is while Canva's new releases are amazing, they are not as good at helping existing users port current projects into that. Like there isn't they didn't spend as much time on the, hey, you do thumbnails every day with this. Look at these things that we could add to your upgrade thing. If
Sure.
like they would be able to, I would be able to just create a whole new thumbnail thing and take advantage of that. But other than that, yay.
Anyway, that's my, I don't know, bigger story or whatever, but I definitely wanted to share that one today.
Great. Okay, I want to talk about ChatGPT. So in the month of March, ChatGPT exceeded the downloads of Instagram and TikTok and became the most downloaded non-gaming application with 46 million downloads. So remember, they had just recently passed the 500 million mark in users. So that's, I think, monthly average users, 500 million plus. So they're clearly the gorilla out there when it comes to AI platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So now, one of the things that X did, or I should say Elon Musk did, was he married XAI and Twitter. And if you recall, when TikTok was becoming banned in the United States, Perplexity made a bid to have the merger between TikTok and Perplexity. Why? Because these social media platforms represent a continuous stream of user-generated real-time data for training models and providing real-time information about what's of interest to the human population out there. And who is it who has the largest user base out there and ought to have a social network in order to feed themselves? OpenAI. So in the news now is reporting from Verge that they're working on a social network extension that leverages the massive user base. And they recently released this very cool text to image capability right in ChatGPT. So you would be able on this social network to populate your posts and create posts natively inside that same platform in the marriage of ChatGPT and their new presumed social network. So everybody wants to play like that. There's only several players, Instagram, TikTok, and maybe a new entry. There's all these alternatives to X/Twitter that emerged, like Blue Sky and Threads from Meta. I don't believe Threads has really gotten much traction. Neither has Blue Sky in respect of the large numbers that you would expect that you would need for such a continuous stream of data. But ChatGPT may be able to create it.
Either create it or perhaps maybe make a bid with TikTok, right? And somebody was just saying, Justin was saying he's all prepared for Canva to buy TikTok. And let's just point out, how much fun would TikTok be if Canva owned them? All this stuff.
If an Australian company owned it, I think it would be fine in the United States.
Yeah, you would hope so.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. I imagine it would be more the reverse, right? Because TikTok came out with CapCut and all these other stuff. But yes, the combination of the two would be super fun. Okay, I want to take a moment to talk about an exciting story in AI and science. Okay, so. This kind of just made me pause for a moment because I couldn't help but think of sci-fi references. But coming out of Science Daily, Hokkaido University came up with a thing they're calling FLUID, standing for Flowing Liquid Utilizing Interactive Device. They really just wanted to call the project FLUID. It's an an open source 3D printed robot that offers affordable and customizable solutions for automated material synthesis, making advanced research accessible to more scientists. All right. So or at least I've talked about stories where universities and private organizations are trying to use AI and robotics into just doing more science, right? Lots of more mundane processing, the tests, those pipettes, all those kinds of things for chemical stuff. But what was really exciting to me about this story was that, number one, the plans for the robot are open source. It's been released out into the wild. You can use a robot, a 3D printer, which are super cheap now, to build all the components to build your robot, which will allow you to do material synthesis or material sciences in general. And just a brief primer, that's just finding different combinations of materials to come up with new materials, right? It's all big smash up, right? And so the machines that currently do that and the equipment that currently does that is massively expensive. So Hokkaido University Group, they came up with this system. It's open source, which means pretty much as long as you can get the 3D printer or access to the 3D printer and the materials, you can then just build your own and start your own material synthesis, and I'm always for lowering that bar of entry. Maybe I want to try some material synthesis in my garage. I think that would be fantastic. Maybe I'll come up with some new mixture or alloy that will be better than like carbon nanotubes, and will make.
Is that in your spare time?
In my spare time, yeah, just an hour a day, folks. That's all you need, right? Now I'm going to sound like one of those infomercials. Yeah. Well, just an hour a day in your own garage, you can print out your own material synthesis robot. Buy now. But I think I've got a bunch of stories. Everyone's got a bunch of stories, but I think of all the AI and science stories, that's the one that seems to be the most hopeful, or it brings me joy to see that we are moving forward in the empowering the common person, or lowering the barrier of entry and getting people to be able to do more things on their own, more independence, things like that. Because independence means less control. All right, moving on. Who's got their next favorite or interesting story they want to talk about? Beth, are you ready? Are we going round robin here? All right. I'll throw to Brian then.
I'm trying to find the article because you guys tell my stories and then I'm like, oh, okay.
Gotcha. No, totally. Yeah, like I had to close the one that Andy was talking about with the social media one for OpenAI for sure.
I just leave them all open and then I'm like, talked about it.
But yeah, I just start closing them, right?
I just keep closing tabs until we're at the end of the show, and then I'm like, I got nothing left, I could talk really quick about two OpenAI things, but not what Andy just talked about. But I was just trying to bring it up on the screen. Just give me two seconds. Talks amongst yourselves, because this was something new that they just came out with, a new feature, if you will. So let me bring this up on the screen because I think this is kind of handy. And that is that OpenAI ChatGPT now gives you a library. So now you can just quickly click on library. Underneath, it's under projects on the side of your normal ChatGPT, and it's just supposed to be one central place where you can find all your images, which I think is super cool. So you guys might notice some of the ones we've used for thumbnails in the past, if I was the one, or probably some of these are for the newsletter. This one at the top, though, the Tampa one, is actually kind of cool. And for this one, I'm actually going to show you the inspiration for this. So let me share this tab instead. This image up at the top right, I was just landing, I don't know, 2 weeks ago when I was coming back from Austin. And this is like legit out the window of my plane. There's no editing on it or anything like that, just for my phone. This is landing in the Tampa Bay area. You can kind of see this is right before the airport. I just really like the picture. So I was like, while I'm waiting around, I was like, hey, can you make this look like graffiti artwork? And this is what it came up with, which I thought was actually super cool. I would totally put this on the wall in my office right in here. In fact, I need some new artwork. And then just a second ago, I was like, hey, can you make this paint by number? And then it made it a paint by number and then I was like, okay, well, I need to know what the colors are. So I just said, can you give me these associated with each number? I literally just did this. Make them common Crayola colors, and I would have to check, I guess. But if I had a box of like 24 or 50 Crayola color, crayons, maybe I need to print this out on my printer and see how good the color by number is. But super cool. I mean, it has nothing to do with the art library, but just think how quickly you could turn images into color by numbers for your kids, or if you're just into like coloring because it's soothing or whatever the reason may be. I think this is really cool. But the main story here is that they added this library. And so now you have one easy place that you can see all your images. I don't have a ton, but if I go to one of them, I can actually edit right from here and it'll add it right in. So just one of those things where you go, yeah, that's actually awesome. I didn't think to ask for it, but kind of glad it shows up. And the other thing I was going to share, but I have to do it in my other window, so just give me 2 seconds, is about 4.1. So 4.1, and we can talk more about mini and nano. I don't have more to talk about per se on that, but I did want to show a really quick comparison that I did that kind of blew me away. I mean, like legit blew me away. And this comparison is between 4.1 and 4.0. I'm in the playground, which is currently the only place you can, well, no, it's 4.1 is through the API. So you can build it in N8N2, but you can access it through the OpenAI playground. It's not currently available inside of ChatGPT, but that's okay. We can still mess around with it. So here's what I did. I wanted to test the 4.1's ability to have prompt adherence and also do a good job at multitasking. Okay, this is not necessarily something 4.0 is bad at, but they were touting 4.1 as being better at it. So what did I do? I have a really easy task up, or I have a task up here that basically has these about 5 or 6 different things. And what I'm going to be giving it as an input is like 25 different posts from a gentleman called Gal Aga. He's like the CEO of Aspire, and he posts a lot on LinkedIn. And I literally did that bulk copy paste type thing, right from LinkedIn. So that was my input. You'll see that down here in a second. But what I wanted to see is, hey, does 4.1 do a better job than 4.0 at these tasks? Because this is a strain, I would say, for 4.0. That's the way I would look at it. I do a lot of this work. So I'm going to scroll all.
Just read a couple of the tasks quickly so that listeners can know what kind of tasks you're talking about.
All right. The first one was detecting tone and intent changes across time. That's important, the across time part. Accurately track shifts in the user's tone or intent from promotional to reflective. That was an example across a sequence of LinkedIn posts, flagging subtle changes in voice or mood that may be missed by models less sensitive to long-term context, aka 4.0, because this is what they told us it's supposed to be able to do. Identifying and highlighting post-evolution of self-references. Detect posts where the user references their early work or opinions, demonstrating an ability to connect threads across time, and highlight posts that build upon or update previous stances, which could be missed by less attentive models. Now, those are 2 of the 5 that I have on here. We have spotting thematic nuances, flagging implicit professional achievements and milestones. Okay. So then I'm going to scroll to the bottom because this is where the stark difference is and what I wanted to share today. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to go all the way to the top. First thing you're going to notice right off the bat, the answer for 4.1 is significantly more comprehensive than 4.0. And I ran this twice to see if I got something similar, or like maybe 4.0 just missed the mark the first time. No, this is pretty much what I got both times. 4.0 does fine, but you're going to notice that it's just like, it's giving me what I asked for. It didn't miss anything, but I'm getting like quick 2-3 sentence type answers to each part of it. Compare that to the left. We start off with a summary table talking about our time frame. We have critical observations in here, talking about earlier versus more recent posts. Then it breaks it down by post number based on, I guess, the way I ordered it. I didn't give it a number, but it ordered it in the copy paste on it. So examples by topic, engagement, sentiment, it's breaking it down there. It's breaking them down by sales methodologies, top engagement posts sorted by sentiment analysis. Then we get into the thematic nuances with similar context. This is huge because it's saying 14 is like 16 and 12 is like 18 and 13 is similar to 10 and 11. Guys, we don't have this outside of 4.1. I almost guarantee you this because I do this stuff all the time on the sales side of the world. So I feel confident in saying like I have some knowledge here, and this is a big difference. But go test it yourself, see what you think. Flagging implicit professional achievements or milestone announcements, additional observations, and then you get this nice conclusion. It's pretty stark. It's pretty stark between 4.1 and 4.0. Now, I don't know if Mini or Nano would have done a similar job, but if we're just looking at 4.1 versus 4.0 for prompt adherence and ability to take complex tasks and knock them out of the park, this is night and day.
Wow. Yeah. And now the question is, since it's only available in Playground and through the API, how long will it take for custom GPTs, of which you have made dozens and dozens, if not hundreds now for clients? Yeah. When can you add 4.1 to custom GPTs?
Man, I tell you, it's going to be a huge deal. It's probably going to simplify our prompts overall because the prompt adherence is going to be so much better. I was just literally saying this. We have a new hire at Scaled, a guy named Quinn, who's I think is going to be phenomenal. And we're ramping him up. He has an experience in AI and in sales, and that's tough, right? So this is really like my counterpart now. And so I've been training him, and I was literally just saying this, that there's such a difference between prompting and creating inside a custom GPT versus API, mainly because you're bound by the limitations. Can't control temperature. I can't control the model. There's a lot of things I'm not able to do inside a custom GPT for good reason, by the way, because it's meant for everybody to be able to build in, but it's limiting. And so we have definitely seen an advancement from 4 to 4.0 in custom GPTs getting better, but this, Andy, seems like a major leap. So I don't know.
My experience with custom GPTs has always been that the hardest part has been to create a reliable sequence of instructions that the model will follow. But 4.1, one of its major advantages, as claimed by Chat GPT / OpenAI, is instruction following. Mm-hmm. And it looks like it's very precise and will not fail to follow every single instruction that you provide it.
And I will say this. Sorry, Beth, go ahead. And I'll put one more point on it.
No, you go, and then I'll wrap up.
My last thing I was going to say is we're building a secret project outside that's adjacent to Daily AI Show that we can't talk about. We don't talk about Bruno on this show. And Project Bruno is, I've been working a lot to test, and I ran a very complex N8N automation using 4.1 Mini. And I'm starting to compare and contrast Mini versus Nano versus 4.1 versus Gemini 2.5, all of which have at least a 1 million token context window. That is a big deal, especially for the project we're working on. Context size and adherence to that context, being able to go into specific parts of it. Gemini has been the front runner on this, although we know there's been some slip in there. But all three of the 4.1 models are the first from OpenAI to have 1 million context window up. I believe the highest they had previously was like 128K.
Yep.
So we've jumped considerably.
Skipped right over 200. Thank you. So there's a little Daily AI Show news. I would like to thank Big Sauce Ernest, Gareth, Jen, and Cisco for tips. It's our first massive yes, thanks y'all.
We can get tips.
It's a viral thing that's happening here.
Wait a minute. We can get tips?
Yeah. And tips we have gotten. Thank you so much, everybody.
I mean, that's awesome, guys.
Oh, no. Like this new news is like so much bigger if you understand our context. Jude Simmons also gave a tip. So Jude,
Ooh.
thank you. We understand that that is almost against everything that you believe.
Kind
So
of against his
we
religion,
re-
I feel
we
like.
really appreciate it.
Jude is, by the way, the context, the background. Jude
Yeah.
is known for being in the comments and also talking to us in our Slack community. By the way, Daily AI Show community.com if you want to join our Slack community and keep on the conversation. But Jude has always said, jokingly and not jokingly, I will bleed a free something, free application, free AI thing dry. I will get every drop out of it before I spend $1. So the fact that he sent 99 cents to the Daily Eye Show is a very big deal.
Yes, and he does refer to himself as the chief executive officer. So okay. The other thing that I want to say about custom GPTs is that I wonder if we are moving beyond their usefulness, because there are still things that are not possible in a custom GPT that are possible in other like just pulling down a model and putting in the prompt that you would use for the custom GPT and then running that. Like, you can do so many more things. I kind of feel like if they're not going to add the capabilities to do things, then maybe we're just moving beyond. So I'm not sure they're going to go for adding it to custom GPTs. We'll see.
I do like Gareth's idea of adding an advanced mode. It would be nice if we could simply or easily wrap the playground or a playground version for a custom GPT. So it's like, oh yeah, it's all API, but here's our wrapper for you. You still plug that in and you can build it all you want, but here's an easier interface to transition between your hard coding everything and plugging your API into your own solution versus a custom GPT. So a nice middle ground would be fun until they transition to GPT-5, where everything's integrated and you simply have to think your thought and it'll build anything that you could possibly dream of.
I am thankful that they don't just, because they've done this before, remember, they didn't just drop 4.1 directly into custom GPTs. I like a little bit of notice that I don't know that it'll give it to me, but I am thankful they didn't do that, because it does cause a bit of waves. But I am definitely hopeful that it's going to improve people's usage of the custom GPTs.
Yeah.
But didn't they also say that the reason they released it as API and not as a new model in ChatGPT is that 4.0 has had a bunch of those updates? Supposedly, like, they've been just updating 4.0 with the 4.1 capabilities. It's not exact, but
yeah, I heard that a possible part of their strategy, it might have been Nate Jones, in fact, but the strategy here is to maybe shore up their direct to dev offerings, because they've been focusing so much on the consumer level of things and that part of the business. So creating a new naming methodology, or aligning a new naming methodology, aligning features and capabilities that are more dev centric is their move or their strategy for the API. I mean, that kind of makes sense to me. I think it would be easy enough to just start adding a toggle that says, oh, do you want advanced mode? Okay, cool. And now you have model drop down for whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. Right? You have to actively go yes and change that. That keeps the onus on the user. Okay, Beth, did you find the tab?
I didn't find the tab, but I hope one of you guys knows what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So with tariffs, the NVIDIA has reported that they are likely to take, I think the number is $5.5 billion hit on not being able to export the H2O chips. But part of that, because those are, and it may be actually that they can't export the H2O chips because there was a specific, like, no, just that one you can't do from the US government. But that prohibition does not include the components of the H2O chip, and I believe it's Huawei, but there are a couple different Chinese companies that have that same kind of name, but with slightly different vowels. And I am not entirely sure if it's the same thing, but they just created a chip that is very much a rival to H2O and able to do that. So it's another sign that with that even before this, with the prohibitions about giving our highest capable chips as an export to China, that China is also going to innovate on their own and do things. And so that seems to be, there was that story. So it's not quite capable, but the trajectory is likely that it's going to match what the US capabilities are and potentially surpass them based on previous patterns of them being behind, spending a while understanding what's happening. Also, they're manufacturing a ton of the stuff. So you also are giving the maps, but then they leap ahead on something because they are much higher in terms of infrastructure and manufacture, right? So once they get to the place where, okay, this is a sufficient thing, they can turn on a dime and create a ton of it. So that was the story. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Thank
you.
Huawei has come out with they've announced their chip making process. I forget what nanometer they can go down to, but it's down to 3. There you go. And that's a magic number. 3 is a magic number. So they do have an end-to-end process. So we're going to start seeing them just churn out chips and chipsets and things like that. So we'll see what happens. Inventory, because I think it was like NVIDIA saying that they hit their cap already, based upon what the regulations are right now. So it doesn't seem to be terribly a barrier for them anymore. So
and if we add to that, Andy, this may have been what you were going to say, but if we add to that the way that they're using light as a way to pass energy or pass messages or something like that, like, am I wrong about that? They're much more energy efficient is the point. So they've done much more in terms of nuclear infrastructure for energy creation or energy plants, and they're also doing things that make their systems more energy efficient in terms of what needs to get used to, I don't know, code the data, pass the data. Andy, make it make sense.
Yeah, that has to do with the bottleneck between the in a GPU, the bottleneck between the memory on the chip and the processing components of the chip. And by doing something photonic in between those two, you dramatically accelerate and widen the bandwidth of that communication. So there are advanced techniques and advanced designs in chips. You know, NVIDIA is certainly a leader in that, although there are many startups that are doing, interesting things in the chip space. But it's just so misguided to try to put, hobbles on anything that we deliver to China, because all that does is accelerate their internal development and their independence from us. And then what we've done is sort of deliberately created a much more capable competitor out of China than we had already with our institutions, like educational institutions like Stanford and Harvard. Now all of their money's going away. What? We're crippling our own capabilities for advanced technology at the same time as we're really inspiring China to advance their own independent from us.
So I have a weave off of that in terms of like unintended consequences. So with literally unintended consequences, now I have no thing in my head at all. I don't have a weave off it. I will find it again. Brian, what do you got? You always got stuff.
Yeah, I can share this really quick. I'll pull it up on my screen. Did you get it? Do you have
I
it, Beth?
did. I know what it
Go-
was.
go for
It's
it.
quick. In the unintended consequences, OpenAI announced that they are that they're willing to change their guardrails if another AI company releases a higher capable AI. Like, but we've talked for a while that OpenAI clearly has some things in the closet that they haven't released that are pretty high capability, and we assume that they're using them to do their own process, right? That it's helpful in manufacturing what they want to manufacture. But that sort of gives the like okay, we believe in safety until somebody else comes out with like something super unsafe, and then we're going to release our super unsafe stuff too. Like that in terms of unintended consequences.
So they weren't first.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that in the news today, so I'm glad you brought that up on there. One that I was going to share really quick is that Claude is, or Anthropic, I guess, but Claude is connecting now to Google Workspace. So what they're saying basically now is by doing that, by the way, you can do this with Teams. We've done it with Scaled. So I'm connected to our Google Workspace inside of our Teams account with Scaled. So this is something I'm doing inside ChatGPT, but I am happy to see Claude doing this. We've often talked about Anthropic being maybe more focused towards enterprise and business use cases. So this would certainly be in that line. And they're saying like now you can ask questions across the workspace. And then down here, it gives us some examples. I even love this one down here for parents. Can streamline personal organization by having Claude scan emails and calendar events to highlight important commitments while searching the web for updated school calendars, local community events, and weather forecasts that might affect family plans. I could totally see people doing this. And then depending on how people could access or ask Claude questions within your household, I almost see this as a sort of enhancement to an Echo, you know who, because obviously something that's going to be more valuable to me is if it does have this information. I mean, obviously it's the information I want to share. It's not everything. I will say this just for inside of ChatGPT. I went through, it was about 70 steps, but kudos to ChatGPT or OpenAI for giving me the 70 steps. It involved going into the Google console. I had to get one of my coworkers who had the upper admin rights to do it. And we had to her and I walk through it step by step. It wasn't like, oh, just turn this on. There was role permissions and and I mean, it was detailed. So I'm assuming Claude is going to be the same way. So I don't want anybody to take this as like, oh my God, it'll have access to all my stuff. No, it's really, really permission based and locked down to specific users so that, you know, people aren't getting HR stuff or finance stuff that shouldn't be getting that information. Every business will have to figure out what works for them. But regardless, I think there's some really good use cases here. I'm excited to see this. I think this is the right move for Claude. And just like with ChatGPT, I seriously doubt Google Workspace is the end of it. ChatGPT has said Slack is next. There'll be other Microsoft stuff. I think Claude and many others will be right in there with them. I think Salesforce will be in there. I think other tools will be in there. And sooner than later, Karl has sort of alluded to this. Well, why would I use your agent if I can just build an agent that gets me there? And I kind of feel like what we might be seeing here in the near future with a Claude and others like it, OpenAI, ChatGPT, is the ability to ask questions across multiple previously disparate data sets. And let's be honest, protocols like MCP and A2A and stuff like that are going to help in this area. So I'm going to be able to ask questions against my Salesforce data that's connected to my emails, that's connected to my transcripts, that's connected to Gong, that's connected to Sales Laughter, Outreach, and all the above. And I'm just going to stay inside of ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your tool uses as a case. And I'm going to ask questions and it's going to build graphs and it's going to do all that. And it probably would stop, at least in the sales world. I think people will just choose to live in that environment because it's the smartest across all their tool set, as opposed to let me build something unique or bespoke inside. And I'm not picking on Salesforce. I'm just using them as an example where you might not go to their AI agent they're building because ChatGPT solves for your pain in that sense. So we'll have to see, but this is certainly just the beginning of it.
this was one of my favorite news items of the week, and it's very recent. It's just in the last day or so.
Yeah, 2 days ago.
But the combination, let me just provide some context. I've always been saying that, the release of Gemini 2.5 to compete with Claude 3.7 Sonnet as a leader in the coding space, or in any kind of, advanced sort of data analysis and coding related thing, makes Google a real threat to the dominance that Claude has had in that space in all of the vibe coding systems, for example. But in addition to that, 2.5 having that capability, then anticipating a native integration with all of the Google app tools like Gmail, like Calendar, like Sheets, like Docs. You could see this thing emerging where Google was going to have an advantage. But this really changed my mind a lot about that, because even today, you can't ask Gemini to search through all your email and through all of your sheets and assemble something on a certain subject. Claude can do it. And by the way, with this new capability, it also combines with deep research. Mm-hmm. So Claude has a research capability plus this integration with your Google App Suite, and it's available to all paid accounts. So just for $20 a month, if you're a Gmail user, it suddenly makes Claude advantageous over other options, including ChatGPT, if you're going to integrate with, if you use Google Docs and Google Sheets and you have a lot of those assembled. Now you can have Claude scour it all. And I have a lot out there in Google, and I'm not even sure how I would kind of read through the 30 folders I have, but I can now ask Claude, is there anything out there in my Google Drive that's related to this? And it's going to answer me.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I was going to say, well, you guys tell me. I mean, Beth, you might have one queued up. I was looking, do we have a show identified for tomorrow? Because if we don't, I have an idea. Okay. So what I was going to say, and you guys can tell me, and anybody in the chat can jump in this, but Andy, like, you're kind of making me think of like what OpenAI started to say about 03 and 04 and the idea, this is one of the news stories, that the early testers of these feel like these models are starting to create novel new ideas, which is a leap because of the research and stuff. And I think there's a connection there with what you're saying, because Andy, you're saying I have a ton of documents. What if you could just point ChatGPT or Claude at the documents and say, given everything I've done and the corpus of all my data, come up with a net new idea that I haven't previously thought about based off of my research, my work, my, whatever. That's pretty powerful. So maybe if you guys are cool with it, I would love tomorrow just to take a minute or a show to just break out what OpenAI is saying is coming in terms of what these models, including 4.1 mini and nano, because we just briefly talked about what they can do, but also 03 and 04 and what they're supposed to be able to do. And this new idea of novel new ideas, because that's pushing the boundaries again. And I think it's worth breaking out what they're telling us these models are supposed to be able to do in the near future. So I think it'd be a great show for tomorrow if you guys are cool with it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fantastic show. But to just make sure that we cross the T's and dot the I's on this one, I'm going to cover some of the stories I said that we were going to cover in the very beginning. So
I think you probably have to wrap. Yeah, you be last.
Yeah, I got to wrap it up with these. All right. So Google says they released VO2 video generating model in Gemini Advanced. I don't have Advanced. Brian, I know you checked just before, but like with all rollouts, it may take a little bit. But let us know, anybody in the chat, if you do have Gemini Advanced, confirm for us. Drop us a line or a message that says, yeah, I can use it now, because would be super fun for me. They never let me know on the wait list, so I still don't have it in Google Labs. I'm salty, but eventually, and until I can get my hands on it, it's kind of vaporware for me. So there's like a whole bunch of announcements in that space that I haven't really talked about, because, well, I can't use it, so I can't give you any real information. But other than that, another big story that I liked was Hugging Face, the big open source platform, has just bought a humanoid robotics startup coming in from Wired, saying they plan to, they bought a company called Pollen, and they plan to sell the humanoid robot Ricci 2 and then let developers download and suggest improvements to its code. So this was super exciting for me because while we have talked about robots and we've talked about humanoid robots, they've all been private sector type of offerings. This is an open source company, and it suggests that the robot software may be open source as well. That's not confirmed, but if it's coming from Hugging Face, that certainly gives us hope. I would love to see an open source robotics development, just like that AI and science story coming out of Hokkaido. And I think this will be a huge step forward in people being able to develop and improve further in the humanoid robot realm. Okay, so I think that covered everything that we announced. So unless anybody's got something real quick, I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us this morning for the live. And thank you, everybody who watches it later. Again, I'll reiterate what everybody else has said. And thank you so much for donating the tips and all those kinds of things. Really, really appreciate that. It helps us, improve and get to more people and all of those fun things. So Thursday, you heard it here. We're gonna do a little bit of an inspection on what these newer models are gonna provide for us. So we'll look under the hood a little bit and do some speculation there. Friday's our recap, and of course on Saturday, hop onto the channel and watch or / listen to on Spotify the Conundrum. And then Sunday, I hope everyone plans to open up their email and late Sunday morning with their cup of coffee and their croissant and read the newsletter. If you haven't already signed up for the newsletter, just go to thedailyAIshow.com. That's where you can sign up for everything and keep a track on that. If you got any questions or suggestions, a bunch of our chatters here, a bunch of our long-term viewers, our OGs, have joined us on our Slack community. That's dailyAIshowcommunity.com. Go there, sign up, join the Slack, join the conversation. Let's keep this going. And learned a bunch of things from people just saying, hey, I heard about this. I heard about this. This is a great way to always stay at the top without the burnout. We've talked about that in the past. So until tomorrow, thank you, everybody, and aloha.